Hello everyone, welcome, and yeah, hi. I am doing another live stream with my usual professionalism, as you can see. I I thought maybe I should have like an intro or something, but I can't be asked. So yeah, I wanted to talk to you about a very specific thing today. I prepared 2 videos to look at. But I guess we might as well just mention, in briefing at least, the humanitarian situation and all that in Gaza and the way the Israeli government has now started, surrendered pretty much and allowed now airdrop of aid and trucks of aids and all of those things get in there. It's I'm a little happy, but I'm a lot unhappy as well. And the reason I'm a little happy, you saw in my last video, I don't like it when civilians don't get fed. But I'm a lot unhappy because Hamas's propaganda, which is based on a lie, complete lie, is one. And this is due to mainly, 2 things really. The incompetency of the Israeli government and the antisemitism of the West. And now things are significantly worse. If anyone thinks that they have made anything better, wow, that's a misunderstanding of the situation. Things are significantly worse, and I'll explain why. First of all, Hamas got now what they were negotiating for. They got it now for free, with nothing to give. They didn't have to give anything for it. Mainly that the aid now goes through them again, and the immediate result of that is that they are going to make a lot of money. They are going to make millions out of selling that stuff to their own population, and believe it or not, they even smuggle it and sell it outside of Gaza. It's not going to go to the population, and that's kind of the thing. This is just for them. That's why they wanted it so badly. That's why the campaign of the starvation campaign was launched to begin with, because Hamas are unable to win against Israel in any meaningful way. Not militarily, they don't have intelligence in both senses of that word. And the only way that they can actually hurt Israel, aside from, being savages and invading and burning children alive and stuff like that, is by harnessing the anti-Semitism of the West. And that's what actually happened. And they just released this campaign, and their allies in the West, CNN, The Guardian, the BBC, all of those guys, I'm not even mentioning Al Jazeera because, come on, it's just a Qatari foreign ministry. That's not really a news outlet. And by the way, the fact that they managed to get themselves into every country in the West in different languages, Qatar are brilliant, okay? I honestly think that Qatar are probably the single smartest country in the Middle East. Seriously. Everything they do is brilliant. It's evil. Everything they do is absolutely evil, but it's brilliant. And their control over the world. They play not both sides. They play all sides. It's unbelievable. They are on the American side, and they are with the Russians, and they are with Israel, and they host Hamas, and they fund Hamas, and it's unbelievable, these people, and they have their hands everywhere in the West. They're in universities, they're in the media, they're in politics, they're everywhere. I think we're not getting the real picture from our media outlets. I think the real player right now is Qatar, pretty much above everyone else. Um, anyway, um, sorry. That's me going without a script. That's part of the problem. I tend to think like about 30 times at the 30 things at the same time, and when I'm without a script, yeah, I lose my train of thought. Anyway, the point is, what they got now, because the campaign they made, the starvation campaign, was embraced by the West, and of course it was embraced. The West always believes anything about Jews, anything. It doesn't matter. Facts don't matter. Anything. It doesn't matter. They will believe it. They will believe it. For as far as the West is concerned, Jews are always guilty until proven innocent. And that's where the incompetency of our government comes in, because the very idea of removing the aid from the hands of Hamas was a great idea. That's the right move. That's exactly what you should do. You should make them crumble from a civic point of view. So the good idea was to feed the population, make sure that the population doesn't need them anymore. That was the point. That's what they were set to achieve. But of course, they did have banged up job, just a terrific job. And then the double incompetency is that they completely ignored or didn't know how to react to Hamas's very successful campaign, and to the fact that it was so lovingly was adopted by the West. Jews were butchered, and we're talking about 1,500 dead right now, okay? And there's a humanitarian crisis over there in Syria, and the West completely ignored it, not a word, and it's all was Gaza, 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 Gaza. So it was a very, very effective campaign. That's what it was. And the leaders were unable or unwilling, I would say, to challenge it. And Israel got to a place where it had to do something to diffuse the situation. We shouldn't have gotten to that place. There was no need to go to get to that place. We handed them a weapon. Even though everybody knew what was going to happen. Everybody knew they would try to sabotage it. Of course they would, because that was like a strike at their jugular. That was a killing blow. If that plan succeeded, if the population was in good shape and fed without Hamas involved, that's the end. They lost the war. They lost everything. So it was obvious they'll do anything to prevent it. And they did. They shot at people, they filmed a lot of fake videos and send them to the West. I love how the BBC said that their freelancers in the Gaza Strip are now reporting about their own hunger. Yeah, those freelancers which repeatedly were proven to be Hamas agents. But, freelancers of the BBC. I mean, come on, even your paid actual reporters are basically Hamas agents. Anyway, the point is, so Israel now drops aid on Gaza, it goes to Hamas, trucks from the UN. By the way, there were tons of aid packets ready for the UN for weeks now to just take it from the border and drive in, and they wouldn't do it. Because they said it was security issues or other excuses. So yeah, those are the NGOs from the UN that we're supposed to trust. That they are completely, no, they're not deciding the war. They're just, somehow always everything they do seems to benefit one side, but they're not a side. Anyway, the point is, it was a successful campaign, and Israel now gave up on that angle apparently, but the result is this: there's no way that that Israel will now just give up after 2 years of fighting and the hostages are still there. It's not going to be like, oh well, we tried. So now the voices that call for what I think would be a terrible mistake, which is a deeper, let's call it, a deeper or an occupation of the entire strip or something like that, they are getting louder. So yeah, I'm not happy. I would have been happy if in the negotiations that fell apart this last week, if the negotiations ended up with an end to the war and hostage exchange, I would have been very happy. But the reason it didn't happen was because of Hamas. And by the way, this is again not the Zionist Jew says this. No, everybody say that. Qatar says it. Egypt says it. The Americans, of course, say it. Even the American, the guy they sent, the Bach, is a Palestinian. Okay, he's a Palestinian American, and he said it on Twitter in Arabic. He said that Hamas are the one dragging their legs. But of course they drag their legs because they were running that campaign, that hunger campaign, and they saw how well it was going, and they figured if we just, hold on for a little longer, the Westerners will force Israel to give us what they are now negotiating with us for. So that's what they did. And, that was the correct tactic from their perspective, especially if you are savages who don't give a shit about people. So yeah, that's what you do. And they did it. And they took, every chance they have. So we could have ended this war. But thanks to the world media, no, not now. I said it before, I say it again, I think the world media, the mainstream media in the West is the worst thing happening right now in the West. And it will be the end of us. Unless we regulate it and make them accountable for lying. And by the way, when I say that, some people always think, oh, so you want it like Russia. No, I don't want it like Russia. I think that it's very important in a democracy to have free media, especially that they are free and unafraid to criticize the government. I don't give a shit when they write about politicians. In fact, I want them to write about politicians and expose corruption and all of those things. That's very important for a democracy. But they cannot be allowed to lie. And during these 2 years almost of fighting, they lied repeatedly. I made several videos about it. I showed data about it. They lied. Not biased, which is human. No, lied. Said things that they knew was not true and hid things that they knew would change the narrative. Okay? They took a participating side they participated as a side in the war. And that is not something that the media should be allowed to do. Unless they are honest about it. Like if the government, like when I say regulation, I don't mind BBC want to be, terror supporters, cool, be terror supporters, but have a banner. Force them to have a banner that says, not a news outlet, not reliable, the voice of Hamas. Then fine. If the people want to listen to the voice of Hamas, cool, that's a democracy. But let the people know. It's like smoking, I always said, I don't have a problem with smoking per se, but I do want people to know what is in the cigarettes. I don't want the companies to go and say, oh, this is vitamins, No, tell people, this is going to kill you. This is the horrible shit. You're going to get addicted and get all the diseases in the world at the same time. All right, that's smoking. Now, if you want to do that, okay, but the companies have to tell you that that's what you're doing. So I think the media is the same. All right. That was the point about Hamas. Rationality, personality is the only one who so far said something in the chat. I'm looking at it now. Did you read today's New York Times main article? No, I do not read every day the New York Times because I have a tendency to get very angry or heartbroken, one of the others, when I read the New York Times. So I don't do that. I don't need to. I get it from other sources all the time anyway. You'll be surprised how many times the Israeli newspaper Haaretz would just copy-paste articles from them. and from The Guardian. According to a Jewish journalist, who's probably also is an Israeli citizen, not necessarily, interviewed Israeli generals who maintained that very little of food aid was stolen by Hamas. Yeah, I heard that. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't have it prepared here, but I have a video already, almost ready to go about that. It's not just that. There was first of all, I don't trust the New York Times every time. I don't trust the New York Times, period. But also, I don't trust the New York Times when they are interviewing those Jewish generals. It's always like very vague, and it's always specifically people that are very much a minority. I can give you like 500 different Israeli generals who will tell you, no, we have very strong evidence that they stole the aid. But what I liked more was this group in the American government asked this group to make like a study into the way they stole the aid, and the American group said they couldn't find. This is the broad strokes. Like I said, I'm working on a video about it, but they said they couldn't find any evidence that Hamas stole the aid, but then they say from 156 cases they looked into or something like that, 56 were from unknown armed individuals, 43 were from unknown armed factions, 12 were individuals working alone or something like that. Like, it's ridiculous. Unknown armed individuals, not Hamas. No, it's just, I don't know. They didn't have their ID with them. He didn't say, "Hi, I'm Muhammad. I'm from Hamas." What the fuck? So it's stuff like that. It's complete nonsense. It's complete bullshit. Anyway, yes, Donny White, you're right. There is also a narrative around the Druze massacre. And it's all very evil. It's from either it's Israel's fault, of course, it's the Jews. But the one that really sickens me is, well, the Jews deserved it. Like, there are people out there who actually say that. Like, the Jews deserve it. The Islamists come in and murder 1,500 people randomly, including children, and they deserve it. It goes to show, again, like the 7th of October exposed how many of our species are really not good people with no moral backbone at all. It's really kind of disgusting. Relentless Cactus Relentless Cactus says, Raz, you have become my favorite commentator on the Middle East. Thank you. It's very kind. You can do better. I know you're just a void. I know we are just a void, but I wish the void was bigger. You trash all the parties who are fucking this up, not take sides. Or you do take sides, as in trash the carp on all sides. I appreciate you and telling others you exist. Oh, don't do that. Then others will come, and I kind of like it small. But thank you. I appreciate the kind words. All right, let's move on to another thing that I wanted to discuss, the main event really of this streaming. So I always kind of say that this is a good segue to that, because the reason I go after both sides, or all sides really, because I really don't believe in this kind of tribalism and people reading out from the manifesto. I believe that everything should be, considered and reasoned, and we should be able to, discuss ideas in a logical way. So I don't care if people want to challenge things that I like it when people challenge things that I believe in, but they should challenge things in a smart way, in articulate arguments, address arguments that they are giving to them, stuff like that. And part of this tribal thinking that I see in both the right and the left is the way you can express it, one of the way they express it is in the way they both try to enlist the Nazis in order to push their own agendas. And it's kind of weird to me how history doesn't matter. It's uncanny. And I'll give you two examples, one from the left, one from the right. Actually, we'll start with the right one, because the right one is kind of funny. I kind of like this channel, and there are moments, but you'll see exactly why I have a problem with the right. Why this kind of tribal thinking can drive me insane. And the left example that I'll give you is an anti-Semite. Now people would say he's not anti-Semite. Oh, he is. A philosopher, Eastern European philosopher, Slavo Zizak. And here I'll show you how he uses the fact that he uses the anti-Semitic trope that anti-Semites supported Zionism to try and delegitimize, Zionism and the Jewish state. But let's start with our friends from the right. So this is from a channel called the Babylon Bee, and you should give them a watch. They're funny at times. They do like these sketches that are, usually you don't see those kind of sketches in mainstream media because, let's be honest here, in mainstream media, most satires tend to be on the left side of things. Excuse me, sorry. But it's so it's refreshing in that way. But again, you'll see what I mean. I'll comment, and you'll see when it gets not so good. So let's have a look.
So good.
I gotta say, I like this guy's impression of Hitler. He's good at it.
So good.
I'm a time traveler from the year 2025, and I've come here to kill you, Hitler.
Oh, not again. I'm never gonna have enough time to finish these paintings with all of these time travelers trying to kill me.
Well, I'm going to succeed.
Before you pull the trigger, can I just ask why? Why do all of you people want to kill me?
Isn't it obvious? I'm a progressive, a liberal, a fighter for social justice. And you are a fascist who implemented a reign of terror. And while the effects of your policies devastated the world for decades, soon we will be able to take back the White House, and we will be able to use the government to force people to follow our great ideas.
You want to use government power to force your ideas on the populace. Me too! That's what...
Okay, this part is what I kind of like about this sketch. They kind of, but again, you have to admit that they use the far left. But yeah, it became kind of like a, unfortunately, again, as an old 90s lefties, I have to say it breaks my heart that what came out of the left. But the left has become very militarized in the West and very totalitarian. So yeah, I kind of like this hit at them.
Fantastisch!
What? No. Ugh. You and I have nothing in common. What I'm saying is there are people in our time with dangerous ideas, and we need to silence them.
Silencing those who disagree with you. I do that too! Oh, wunderbar! Oh, the Nazi movement will not die with me.
Don't give me that! I'm enlightened, and you're as bad as... as Hitler. Listen, what I'm trying to say is we are very close to implementing a utopia, as long as we can get rid of some certain undesirable people groups.
Yes, like the Jews.
Yes, like the Jews. Oh.
So, in the future,
Oh.
you also do not like the Jews?
Well, no. But we don't believe in segregating all the races like you do. I mean, except for like graduation ceremonies. And dorms. And hiring practices. Oh, and admissions policies. That sort of thing.
I too am a fan of the segregation. I'm sorry, I have to ask, is this a real fire?
I gotta say just that I really like this actor. I don't know who he is, but he does a terrific job. Like, his faces are very funny.
Or is this some kind of toy for kinder?
It's a flare gun. I'm trying not to support America's toxic gun culture.
Okay, we'll get into the point, to the part where I'm going to have a problem.
I'm a firm believer in gun control.
Gun control! This was one of my ideas too. Ban them from the undesirables. Yes, look here. Oh.
And here we go. This is now where we get to the problematic thing about this sketch. And it's really quite amazing to me that one of the favorite things that for white people, by the way, let me just have a look here. Okay, just looking at the comments, I just wanted to see if anyone says, we can't hear the video. Apparently that didn't happen, so I imagine you guys can hear the video. Good. Anyway, the thing that really amazes me about a lot of right-wingers who go for those kind of arguments is that one of the things they love to say to you all the time online is straw man. They love to use the word straw man, the phrase straw man, and they always use it wrong. Okay, to be fair, not just right wingers do that. Also also leftists do that. But they always use it wrong. That is a classic example of a straw man. All right, just because Hitler was doing gun control, that doesn't mean that anyone who believes in gun control is, a supporter of Hitler. It has nothing to do with that. And the sketch goes on and does it even worse.
Your shirt, this is an organization founded by Margaret Sanger. Yes?
Wait, you know about Margaret Sanger?
Jawohl, of course. Oh, she's such a lovely person.
No. She's a fighter for reproductive rights, for women's empowerment,
and the eradication of undesirable populations by means of eugenics. Brilliant lady, very inspiring. I must use some of her ideas in our socialized healthcare system.
Socialized healthcare?
Sorry.
That's not your
Okay, you know what? Let them finish this sentence.
thing. That's our thing.
Oh no, it's very much my thing. Did you know that Nazi means National Socialist German Workers' Party? Not.
Okay, so yeah. First of all, we're seeing here this argument that if you believe something that Hitler believed in or claimed to believe in, then apparently you are a Hitler. And that's a straw man. Now, the Margaret Sanger, the person they're referring to, this is her. And she was the founder of the birth control movement in the US in the late 19th century, all the way to the mid 20th century. Now, even in this page about her in Britannica, they will address the fact that, here we go, it starts here, that her legacy has been complicated by her support of eugenics, the idea of selective breeding for desired heritable characteristics. All right, so first of all, we need to understand something about eugenics, all right? Because that also became like this kind of a trigger word. If you just say that word, then you're Nazi and everything, that's it, you're lost. In her time, eugenics was common. Like, the idea was supported by many scientists, regardless of the Nazis. And not because they thought we should eradicate, this race or that race, but because there was this thinking, which is not entirely wrong, that perhaps we could breed some diseases out of people. So, because there are people who just have a natural tendency to be immune to some conditions that other people are affected by. So that was kind of a way of thinking at the time. Now, today, yes, in hindsight, we can say there's a problem there. It's not completely scientifically valid. Not completely not, for the record. We do the same thing with animals. We do it with plants. It should also work with humans. But yeah, there are moral problems. There are scientific problems. different time today. But the fact that the Nazis kind of hijacked that entire thing to their twisted, ridiculous way of thinking doesn't mean that everyone in that time who believed in that actually thought that, oh yeah, we should totally use that to, get rid of the Jews. No, that wasn't it. So even like the idea that the moment she supported eugenics, that means that she is a horrible person, and therefore her concept of birth control is also wrong. Which is what? How the hell do you make that jump? That is complete nonsense. All right? That's not a valid argument. That's a straw man. And then, he's talking about how the Nazis are a social, national socialist, blah, 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 blah. That's an old trope of the right. The Nazis weren't right-wing, they were actually socialists. Well, yeah. And North Korea calls themselves the Free Republic Democratic of North Korea. Just because you push feathers up your butt doesn't make you a chicken. All right? The Nazis were a fascist group. That's not socialism, okay? And it is very, very, very right-wing. All right? Changing history for the benefit of your narrative, no, it's not acceptable. And that's where the right always loses me, because even if they start correctly, then they always go to those places. Like, it's always like you have to also not believe in vaccines now. Apparently, like I saw this other person saying about the COVID vaccines that they were not what they were that he used not used. They didn't work. That was basically what he was saying, that they didn't work, and that is absolutely not true. That is absolutely not true, and I was really surprised why are they saying that. And I looked into it, and apparently they say it because they say that people who were vaccinated were actually still carrying the virus. And if you say that, then you don't understand what a vaccination is. Okay? Because not all vaccinations stop you from being a carrier. You can still be a carrier of some of those diseases. But like, for example, to my knowledge, when it comes to measles, you're also not a carrier. But when it comes even to the common flu, you are a carrier. You're just not going to develop symptoms, or not going to get hard symptoms. The COVID vaccination worked. It was good, and it saved millions of lives. All right? And it's probably saved even more than millions of lives, because it stopped the pressure that the health system would have gotten by not having vaccinations. Now, if you want to discuss the way the governments reacted, the lockdowns, yeah, valid points all around. We can discuss it. Some moves I think were right, some were mistakes. Good. Awesome, let's discuss it. But the moment you go to, and also they made people take vaccinations, that they didn't make people take anything, it was a choice, and the vaccinations worked, and they were safe. So again, we see how we just, the moment you're in some kind of a political side, you're always just grabbing the manifesto and you're reading from it, and fuck evidence or reality or data. So yeah. But it's a good satire. It's a good satire. It's the Babylon Bee, that's the name of the channel. Give them a watch. They're funny, and it's, even if you don't agree with the satire or not with all of it, it's good to see something a little different than what we used to, because Saturday Night Live, there were the hearings in Congress with the heads of the universities, and they were asked, is it okay to call for the genocide of Jews? And they answered, depending on the situation. Sometimes it's okay. And Saturday Night Live made a sketch about it, not ridiculing the racist Nazis that headed those universities and said that sometimes it's okay to call for the genocide of Jews. No, they were ridiculing the congresswoman who was asking the questions. So yeah, this is one of those times where I'm glad that there is an internet, there's alternative media, and we can definitely benefit from watching and listening to other voices. Thank you very much. Doesn't mean you don't need to be critical against them. All right. Before I go to the next piece that I wanted to show you guys, let's look at what goes down in the comment section. By the way, every time I do one of those streams, I click in YouTube on that little thing that should make those comments appear in the video later when people rewatch it, and it never works. They're never there. So if anyone knows what I'm doing wrong, please tell me. Is this a church play? Is this another movie like God is Not Dead? I guess this is about people talking to them about amongst themselves, because I don't know the context here. Amir Elbat said context. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what's. Oh, well, the context of demon. In the context of demons, can chicken get demon up their butts? Okay, John Lavelle, I have no idea what you're talking about. You might want to run this by me again, or if it's not, addressed at me, that's okay too. Anyway, yeah. All right. Let's move to the next thing I wanted to show you. Now, this here is Slavo Zizak, and he is a philosopher, which, by the way, respect to anyone who, in this day and age, that can have the title philosopher and make a living out of it. Unfortunately, I don't think he's a very good philosopher, but that's my my opinion. The guy really, every time I heard anything he wrote or said, it just sounds to me like he's riffing off of Herbert Marcuse. Basically, it's a way for disappointed far leftists to try to understand why the communist revolution didn't happen. And he's just kind of echoing Marcuse's ideas of the way consumerism kind of made them diffused, really, the communist revolution. I won't bore you with the details. That's not the point. Here we have a talk that he gave, and this very civil talk, he's going to say now that we now have to, he means they, he means the Westerners, they need to now understand that all of Israelis, or most of Israelis, are evil. That's what he's going to say. And he's going to try and prove that by saying that anti-Semites have supported Zionism. So let's hear some of his words.
I'm here, I try to be as honest as possible.
No, you don't.
I'm aware of also all the limitations, problematic anti-Semitic statements by many Palestinians and so on. That's not my point.
Of course not, because that will completely derail your entire persona. And this is, by the way, it's like the trademark of racists. I know that there are other people who are racists out there. I'm not. This is not what I'm saying. Some of my best friends are,
What I want to focus is that how this absolute shamelessness of what is going now in the majority of Israel. We cannot any longer play there the usual game of there are that Netanyahu and his right-wingers kidnapped the government and against the peaceful democratic majority are pursuing radical Zionist agenda. I don't have time I will just improvise. Okay, screw it.
The point he is making, notice the point, and that is now fine. See, there's no nobody rebels. If I sat down and said that we have to now understand that most of China is made of people who are against human rights or whatever, there'll be an outcry. People would try to cancel me. People would wear like a ribbon. There'll be like a thing. but saying that all or most of Israelis are in support like of this what he calls radical Zionism, that's fine. Screw the fact. Screw the fact that if now there were elections in Israel, Netanyahu and his government would lose it. So that's right there is proof that most Israelis do not support the current government. But Zizak is a philosopher, he doesn't need facts.
The only way I will say anything. You know, we have to talk, so many things are to be clarified here. First, I have some radical Palestinian friends who claim two-state solution is a myth and so on and so on. So when I ask them, okay, what will work? They say Jews in Israel should commit a symbolic suicide in the sense of renounce their Jewish identity and accept that they are just one among the people there.
So he's now pushing the idea that Jews should stop being Jewish. That's the solution to the situation. If Jews just didn't exist, everything will be fine.
I think if one does this, one concedes too much to Netanyahu. What Netanyahu and his guys, and at this moment the majority even maybe of Jews in Israel, are doing is they are already committing a symbolic suicide. The
very fact that Jews are, defending themselves in any way is symbolic suicide.
Judaism that they stand for breaks with the most precious element of the Jewish legacy. There would not have been European Enlightenment without Jewish legacy. Then we should go a step further.
All right. First of all, how would you know? What the hell do you know about Judaism? What the hell do you know about what is going on even? You have no idea. You're just talking out of your ass. Because of course you can, because you're a Westerner, so you know everything. But no, how the fuck do you know? What exactly? If you ask him, what exactly? Give me exactly the things that most Jews in Israel, his words, most Jews in Israel are doing that breaks the legacy of Judaism. What is the legacy?
I indicated this 2 years ago at the Frankfurt Book Fair, and I was interrupted by politicians there. Why? I pointed this out. Do you know that there was, from the very beginning, a link between Zionism, in the sense of let's return to our promised land, and European anti-Semitism?
Yes, there is a link, just not the link that he's talking about.
Is the hero today of self-legitimization of the state of Israel? Of course, Alfred Balfour. You should study him. Do you know that Balfour was very anti-Semitic? He supported the establishment of Israel because this was an epoch, the first decades of the 20th century, where Jews, because of the pogroms in Russia and then October Revolution and so on, Jews were massively emigrating to the to what was it called at that point, British Empire, not yet United Kingdom, and
it was the United Kingdom, yes, but it was also the British Empire.
He was afraid there will be too many Jews here. And this line goes on. Then it was, I always quote him, and they tried to catch me. No, sorry, he did it. The real evil guy, Reinhard Heydrich, the father of Holocaust. You know that in 1937, he wrote a text where he says there are two types of Jews, assimilationists and Zionists. With Zionists, they are perfect. We want them to go there. They are wonderful people. We will collaborate with them. We just don't want them here.
All right. That's kind of, you got a point. I think now I'm going to speak without having to hear him speak. So, yes. first of all, sorry for anyone in the comments who said something. I wasn't looking at the comments. I was looking at Zizak. You have to look at him to believe. Now, let's first of all talk about what the very point that he's making there. And it's an old trope by anti-Semites. And the trope goes that anti-Semites were actually in league. How do you say it? I forgot the phrase. They were excuse me. Sorry. The trope goes that anti-Semitic groups like the Nazis conspired. That's the word. Idiot. Conspired with the Zionists. That's the trope that they're trying to introduce. And therefore, that's another way of saying Israel is illegitimate. Now, first of all, let's start with what is the meaning of Israel is not legitimate. What are they trying to say there? Okay? Because, excuse me, what they really saying by saying that is that they want to see a second Holocaust. That's the only meaning. That's from the river to the sea. That's what it means. If you destroy Israel, there are, 8 million Jews living there right now? Something like that. So 7.5 million Jews. The only way you destroy Israel, the only way those Jews will give up on Israel is if you murder them all or forcibly displace them. So we're talking about the second Holocaust. So he's sitting there and calmly explains how he's not an anti-Semite, he's not racist. People who committed the Holocaust are evil, but here's why we need to commit a new Holocaust. Because they always have reasons, of course. I mean, they had a reason before Israel, now they have a reason, and the reason is Israel. There's always a reason with these people. Now, the one thing he's right, rather not him right, but the Nazi who wrote about it was right, absolutely right, is that at the time, in the 19th century, there were two main groups in Judaism. One was the people who wanted to assimilate, one were the Zionists. Now, the people who wanted to assimilate started off as the majority, because it was when Europe started accepting, well, at least legally accepting Jews. Until then, Jews in Europe suffered from legal persecution. They couldn't hold land. They couldn't practice certain positions, certain jobs. They couldn't go to most, if not all, universities. Not to mention they were not real citizens anywhere. They were just, you could just wake up one day and decide to expel them from your country or from your province or from your city, and it was fine. And no one was really persecuted for harming Jews. If you can rob them, you can kill them, you can rape them, you can kidnap kids, you can do whatever you want. They were completely out of the protection of the law, and people did that repeatedly. All right? And then it's a process that started in the 18th century, really, with the humanist movement and all of that. Those things started to change, and people were now allowed to, be treated like humans. They weren't treated like humans, really. The system kept on keeping them down, idiot. The system kept them down, and there were persecutions, there were pogroms, there were all of those things. But from a legal point of view, it felt to the Jews as if Europe is finally coming down and allowing us to live. So that was the assimilatists, or whatever you call them, the people who wanted to assimilate. And then there were the Zionists. Now, interestingly enough, the father of Zionism, Herzl, he started as another one of those who wanted to assimilate. In fact, in his youth, he had this plan where he said, all right, let's just take all the Jews in Europe and convert them to Christianity. Boom, problem solved. Now we're one of them. But then he realized, no, they would still be persecuted, as history also proved. Because people under the Inquisition who converted to Christianity were still persecuted. because most Europeans saw Judaism as an ethnicity, not a religion, and they were right to see it that way. By the way, it's also an ethnicity as well as a religion. But they had a problem with the ethnicity, so it won't work, and therefore Herzl and his kind of people thought that the best thing to do, and by the way, he got to again to the idea of Zionism after he suffered persecution. So this is not like some guy sitting in a room, everything is fine. No, he was kept out of jobs. He was persecuted in his school. He was kicked out of his school because he complained about the anti-Semitic group there who would call to the murder of Jews and raping Jewish women and stuff like that, and he complained about them, and they threw him out of school. So, and this guy comes from a rich family, like his father is a lawyer, or something like that, and he's like the one of those guys who, and that's kind of why these people realize that they are not going to be accepted, because if you're rich in Europe, you're supposed to be, living the life, but not Jews. Jews were still kicked out of everywhere and were still open to attacks and slander, and the law didn't help. So he came to the conclusion that Jews will never be free and safe in Europe, ever. Oh boy, how right was he? And he said, all right, we need to go back to our historical homeland. We have to have self-determination. By the way, it's important to also put in context the fact that it was the 19th century and the idea of nationalism started all around the world. And people don't realize that. What we now see as like as a common thing, like as an obvious thing, this nationalist kind of feeling that we have, we're French, we're English, we're Italians, we're that, we're this. That didn't really exist before the 19th century. Not the way we think about it today. It was much more a regional thing. It was much more an ethnical thing. Kind of like the way it was in the ancient world, like a Roman, was a Roman, not the Roman Empire. So yeah, it was like that. But then in 19th century, you have these nationalist movements all around the world, including in Arabia, including in the Middle East, where the Arabs have their pan-Arabism, and they want to break free from the Ottoman Empire. That's what started the Arab nationalist movement, by the way. So yeah, that's how it was, and Herzl started the Jewish nationalist movement, which is Zionism, because of the anti-Semitism of Europe. Now, fast forward to the 20th century, and this is what Zizak is kind of using. There were many anti-Semites in Europe who wanted to get rid of the Jews. Okay? The Zionism didn't start like in conspiracy with them. It started because of people like them. It started as a reaction to the persecution by people like them. All right? That is the reality. And they thought, when they heard about Zionism, they thought, yeah, great, kick them out. I mean, we want to kick them out. If they'll just, go away on their own, awesome. I'm totally for it. And yes, he's right. Balfour was a huge anti-Semite. That is a matter of record. We know that. And his support in Zionism was probably not because he was, he actually thought that Jews deserved their homeland. He just didn't want Jews in Britain. So he thought, yeah, let's give them some place to go to and then just, kick them out. And then you have the Nazis. And the Nazis also, at the beginning, thought that that Zionism is a good idea because it's a way to kick Jews out of Germany and then out of Europe in general. So, and the camps weren't ready yet. And this is something that I know on a personal level because my grandfather, on my father's side, was born in Berlin. And when the Nazis took power, he was a teenager. And one day he sat in a restaurant and ate with his stepfather, because his biological father died in World War One fighting for the Germans. Because my family on that side, they were of those Jews who wanted to assimilate. They didn't have anything to do with Zionism at all. Even when Zionism was starting to become very, very popular, my family was the people of Haskalah. If you don't know what that is, that's a movement in Judaism, started also in the 19th century, of Jews that left the religious side of it and kind of also turned their back on the cultural side of it and tried to actually be part of the country where they are. And my grandfather always thought of himself as German. As far as he was concerned, he's German. His father died fighting for the fatherland, he's German. The Nazis didn't agree. And one day he and his stepfather sitting in a restaurant after the Nazis took power, and a couple of SS soldiers come in, and they look around, they find someone who looks Jewish, and they, according to how my grandfather described it, beat the living shit out of him right there in the restaurant as everybody was watching. They left him unconscious, and my grandfather told me how he and his father were like kind of trying to disappear into the seats, praying that they won't be seen. And his father said, okay, we're done, you're off. I'm sending you to France, because, they didn't know what would happen. And my grandfather went to France, and he was like, I think 15 or 16 or something like that. And he joined the communist underground there. At the time, the communism was really hip with the younger people, especially against the fascists. That was kind of like the thing in Europe at the time. That was the mindset. So if you're against the fascists, you're probably a communist if you're young. So he joined the communist underground, and he spent like a couple of months in prison for something like I don't know, like loitering or something like that. Yeah, they were handing flyers and speaking against the whatever communists speak against. And he was arrested. He spent like a couple of months or a few weeks in prison, and he comes out and he goes to a rally, and the head of the branch gives a speech, and and my grandfather told me 5 seconds into the speech. And it wasn't about the rich, it wasn't about the capitalists, it was about the Jews. 5 minutes into the speech, the Jews were the issue. There's no Israel, so now, it is time, the Jews are the bankers, all the regular shit. They control the media, they control the government, they corrupt the youth, they blah, 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 blah. And he hears that, and he looks around, and he sees all those Westerners clapping enthusiastically, all those people that he viewed as comrades. And at that moment, he told me, the dime dropped, and he realized, oh, the Zionists are totally right. They will never accept us. They will never let us be. And at that moment, he made the decision to go to what was then the British Mandate of Palestine, and join the Zionists in their efforts to, get back the Jewish land to the Jews. Now, why am I telling you all this story? Because my grandfather lost most of his family and his friends, like high school friends, his girlfriend, cousins, uncles, all died all murdered in the Holocaust. But he did manage to get, his sister managed to escape too, before it was too late. And he did manage to come back a couple of years after that and bring his parents back. And this is when the Nazis are already starting to rounding up Jews in concentration camps. So it was a dangerous time to go in. So he goes in. Yeah, he like someone in the Zionist agency, they gave him they managed to give him like a fake passport or something. I don't remember all the details. I should definitely look into it and see how he did it. But he managed to get into Germany under false pretense, and he managed to get his parents, and they go to the boat, the pier, or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Again, sorry, the details are kind of fuzzy. But the point is, on the way, they are stopped by a Nazi officer. And the Nazi officer looks at his ID and his passport, and he's not convinced. And my grandfather said, we were all like pissing ourselves, because it's the concentration camps from there, if we're not, if they don't let us go. And then the superior officer comes in and looks at what what they're talking about, looks at my grandfather's passport, and he says, wait, you're going to Palestine? And he goes, yes. Then the superior officer says, let them go. I wish you good luck. And then he goes, and I might even see you in the future. Okay? That's what the Nazi superior officer told my grandfather. You can go. I wish you good luck. I might see you in the future. My grandfather never forgot that. He told me that, and that kind of like etched itself into my brain as well. And it's no surprise, it's a known fact now that the Nazis had dealings with the Palestinian imam, the Arab imam in the land of Israel, and they were going. The idea was, once they get rid of all the Jews in Europe and they conquer everything, they go to the Middle East and they will exterminate the Jews in the Middle East as well. So, but for them, it was just a way to get Jews out. To get Jews out quickly and without bother. It doesn't cost them anything, because bullets cost money. And by the way, Nazis in their instructions to the soldiers said you shouldn't shoot Jewish children because you shouldn't waste bullets on them. You can kill them easily without using bullets. Again, historical fact. So yeah, that is the evil that people like Zizak are trying now to turn around and say, oh, Nazis supported Zionism, therefore, and it's kind of the same argument, again, strawman, therefore Zionism is illegitimate. That is the argument from the great philosopher. So you see how if you're on the right or if you're on the left, the pattern doesn't change. The content changes, but not the pattern. They both use history to their liking to push their own agendas. They both use strawmen, real strawmen, not like in every internet argument where they just shout that phrase to win the argument and it doesn't make any sense. This is what a strawman is. Okay? When you're trying to add content to the original speaker that wasn't there based on things that are not relevant to the actual argument, that is a strawman. So if you're saying that because Hitler did gun control, then gun control is not valid and not a valid thing, that's a strawman. Because you're saying, and if you're saying that because the Nazis thought that that Zionism is a good idea because it gets rid of Jews, then that means that Zionism is not a valid idea. That's a strawman, and quite a stupid one, and also quite an evil one. And that's the thing about these anti-Semites. They're so twisted. They have, like in Hebrew, we say "En lahem Elohim," which translates into "they have no God." And what we mean by that is that they have no limits. They have no morality. They'll do anything and everything for their objectives, for their goals, evil as they are. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. And look at that, it's been an hour, and I've been yapping at you guys for an hour now. So I think I'm going to give my throat a rest, and you give you a rest as well. I hope this was better. I really tried this time with the sound and the camera and the things, and I don't know. I hope this is better. I really do hope that the comments will be seen, but I don't know. Yeah, that's it for me today. I'll see you guys all next time. Goodbye, Void Dwellers.